Welcome to the Dig Into English podcast with Ben Henschke, episode 10. Hey everyone, this is Ben and you're listening to the Dig Into English podcast. I was very happy to receive a topic suggestion from Šarūnas, who is from Lithuania but is now working in the UK. He asked me to talk about job interviews. Thank you for the suggestion, Šarūnas. Well, I've put on a nice suit and I'm ready to give you some advice about how to show off your skills in an interview in English. Step into my office. Normally, when you apply for a job, you submit a resume to the employer. Your resume is a list of your skills, your work history, and your qualifications. Qualifications are official certificates that show that you finished a course or that you have certain skills. A high school certificate, a university degree, and an IELTS or TOEFL certificate are all examples of qualifications. If the employer likes your resume, then they will invite you to an interview. These are always stressful, even for native English speakers. Don't worry though, because if the employer has asked you for an interview, you've already impressed them. One of the most important things in your interview is your first impression. This is the first thing that your interviewer thinks when they see you and talk to you. The first impression can greatly affect the employer's decision. If you're wearing a dirty t-shirt and you look like you haven't showered in a week, you should probably look for another job. So, wear some nice clothes and brush your hair. Your body language can be just as important as what you say. Your body language is how your body shows what you are feeling. That's why it's important to have a big smile on your face, even if you're nervous. First, your interviewer will probably ask you a polite question, such as, "How are you?" This is a way to make you feel comfortable. A good response would be something simple, like, "I'm doing well, thank you. And you?" Or, "I'm fine, thanks. I'm excited to have the opportunity to have an interview with you." Of course, you should also smile to show the interviewer that you're comfortable. You'll probably be asked about your skills and qualifications. You can mention any certificates you have that are relevant to the job you are applying for. If the certificates are relevant, it means that they are suitable for the job. Of course, it's a good idea to mention any English certificates that you have. If you don't have any, then you can try to mention any English classes that you take, or tell your interviewer how often you study English by yourself. This shows that you're excited to learn new things, which will impress the interviewer. Your work experience is also an important area that your interviewer will ask you about. You should mention any jobs that you've had in the past that are relevant to the job you are applying for. Be sure to say what skills these jobs have taught you. Be careful though. If your interviewer asks you why you left your last job, don't say something negative like, "I didn't like my boss," or "It was boring." Instead, you should mention what you learnt in your last job, and then say something like, "However, I started to look for new challenges," and then explain why this job will be better for you. You should always talk about positive things rather than negative things. You can also talk about volunteer work, which is work for which you didn't get paid. The skills that you learn through volunteer work can be extremely helpful in job interviews. For example, last year I applied for a job writing web pages for a company's website. I didn't have any experience writing for websites, but I said that I had edited my university's newspaper and written a lot of articles for it. I said that this taught me attention to detail, which means paying attention to small things. I also said that it showed that I can meet deadlines, which means that I can finish work that needs to be done by a certain time. Even though I didn't earn any money while I was writing for the newspaper, it helped me get the job with that company. Cool, right? After that, you might have to tell the interviewer your strengths and weaknesses. Saying your strengths is easy. You can say that you work well in a team, or that you are a quick learner, for example. Try to choose something that would be suitable for the job that you are applying for. Choosing your weakness is more difficult. Actually, I really hate this question. It's a good idea to mention something that is both a strength and a weakness. For example, you could say, "Because I pay so much attention to detail, I sometimes spend too much time on tasks." Your answer will be even better if you add that you are trying to improve. You could add, "But I'm aware of this weakness, and I'm working on my time management skills." That should help you give a good answer. The questions that I think are the hardest are called behavioral questions. These require you to talk about how you would act in a situation. Your interviewer might ask, "If you experienced conflict with a colleague, how would you solve the problem?" This question asks what you would do if you disagreed with a colleague, which is another word for someone you work with. When you answer this question, it's a good idea to show that you are good at communicating with people and understanding their feelings. You need to show that you are able to compromise, which is a word I introduced in episode 9. It means that you can suggest a solution that you and the other person are both happy with, even if it isn't perfect. You might like to say, "I would speak with the colleague directly so that I can understand his or her feelings. After that, I would suggest a compromise that we can both agree to. If we are unable to resolve the conflict, I would refer the problem to my manager." This answer shows that you are good at communicating and that you know that you need to talk to your manager if you can't solve problems yourself. At the end of the interview, your interviewer might ask if you have any questions. Asking something is important because it shows that you are interested in their company. You could ask, "Do you have any upcoming projects?" If you've found something interesting on their website, which you should look at before the interview, by the way, then now would be a good time to ask them about that. It shows that you've done research, which will impress your interviewer. Remember, your last impression is just as important as your first one. After that, congratulations! You've just finished your first job interview in English. That's a great achievement, so you should be proud of yourself. I really hope this episode helps you when you have a job interview. If you're confident, I think you'll do well. If this episode helped you, please let me know in a comment on this episode's page, digintoenglish.com/episode 10. I would really appreciate it if you shared this episode with your friends, if you think it might help them. As usual, you can download the entire script of this episode with some explanations of difficult words from this episode's page. There's a lot more that I could talk about, so I'll post some more advice at digintoenglish.com/interview tips. Have you had any problems during job interviews in English? If you had a successful interview, what do you think you did well? You can share your story in a comment on this episode's page. I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'm sure other English learners are looking forward to it too. Well, I'm going to take off my suit now so that I can relax. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.